Okay, good luck. Um, the month of Iyar is associated with blessing for health, as the Torah says that Iyar stands for "I am Hashem who heals you," and the kind of healing that's unique to Hashem's blessing is that when Hashem heals a person, the disease is completely removed in a way that there's no trace of the initial issue. As a verse reads, all the diseases that you experienced in Egypt, Hashem says, I won't place upon you because I am Hashem who heals you. That's what the Torah says. So Chassidim once asked the Alter Rebbe, they knew that there's some relationship between healing and faith. They asked the Alter Rebbe, what comes first? Does healing bring faith, or does faith bring healing? They knew there was some kind of relationship between faith and healing, but they want to know which brings what starts, what causes what. The Alter Rebbe responded, if we see the answer from the Seder. The Zohar says that the first night of the Seder, the matzah is called the food of faith, and the second night of the Seder is a special blessing for the matzah to be the food of healing. So we see that the food of faith precedes the food of healing. First, there is faith and there's healing. That's the preferred way, the Alter Rebbe said. There is a kind of experience where after Hashem has healed you, you thank Hashem for healing you, and that means that you were initially sick, and therefore you're thanking Hashem for healing you. But there's a higher way where your faith brings healing, that because you trusted in Hashem, so the there is no issue in the first place. And even though the person has, the way I understand it, even the person was ill, but they maintained their faith the entire time while they experienced the issues. And so it's as if the issues weren't really issues for this person, because they trusted in Hashem the whole time. So their faith brought the healing in a way there was no issue in the first place. Yes, there may have been an issue, but for them, in their experience, they don't have the issue. Their faith brought the healing. So there was never really an issue. The Chassidim asked the Alter Rebbe, is this true for a Jew's physical life or for a spiritual life? And the Alter Rebbe said that it's by a Jew, the physical and the spiritual are connected. So in other words, if it's true for our physical life, it's true for our spiritual life as well, that our faith in Hashem about our own behavior is that our faith in Hashem also enhances our spiritual life too. So it's not just that we trust in Hashem that we'll be okay, and everyone in our family be okay, and everyone in the Jewish people will be okay, and that brings healing to those that we trust in Hashem that He will heal. But also, in regards to the spiritual state of people, your trust in Hashem about that those people will be healed spiritually will help them spiritually and help yourself spiritually. Like the Rebbe wrote to one father, the trust you have in Hashem that your son will be okay will help your son. So in that spirit, I want to share with you a story of 3 generations of people who experienced healing in merit of their trust in Hashem. Incredible story. This story is about it was shared by Miri Friedlander from Tel Aviv, who she shared the story herself. She said that her family comes from Ger Hasidim, and not just Ger Hasidim, but from the Rebbes, Ger Rebbes. But although they come from Ger Rebbes, but they felt a very strong connection with our Rebbe. And so she grew up in a family where the Rebbe's name was always mentioned. There was a very, very great respect for the Rebbe and a very great closeness with the Rebbe. And she said that her mother studied in a Chabad school in the Reshet in Israel. And she also got a bracha for the Rebbe for her marriage. So her parents, Rabbi Avram Rotenberg and Mrs. Fega Rotenberg, when they got married, they were a young couple, and 2 years after they got married, they were um, they were offered this position in Brazil to teach in the community in Brazil. And after a year being there, um, they didn't really like it so much. It wasn't working out so well for them. So he wanted to go back to Israel. And he knew, although they were Ger Hasidim, they knew that the Ger Rebbe doesn't really answer letters. And therefore he decided to send a letter to the Lubavitch Rebbe to ask the Rebbe whether they should go back to Israel or not, or should they leave Brazil or not. They were doing this important role of teaching, but it wasn't working so well. Should they go back? Um, and from the Rebbe's answer, he understood that he could finish his role in Brazil and he could leave. So he decided to go back to Israel. And the way back to Israel, he had a grandmother, Mrs. Sarah Grosser, in New York, and he decided to go visit his grandmother before going back to Israel. So he got back to New York in 1958, and as soon as he arrived back in New York, he asked the Rebbe's secretariat for an audience with the Rebbe. He felt very great closeness with the Rebbe, and he never saw the Rebbe before, but he felt close to the Rebbe, and therefore he um, he had this audience. And in this audience with the Rebbe, the conversation went on about um, what he did in Brazil and what his plans are. And as a result of this conversation, the Mr. Rabbi Rotenberg decided to stay in New York and to teach in a school called Ohel Moshe, which parenthetically, my father, Al Vashom, also taught in that school. The school does a lot for especially for people who were coming from backgrounds that needed more encouragement in their Judaism. So he decided to teach in the school, and he was in the school teaching for some time. And he lived across the street from the Rebbe's synagogue at 770 Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn. So he was always very close with the Rebbe. And so, for example, when they had their first son, um, on the 7th of Kislev in 1958, it was natural for her husband, Rabbi Rotenberg, to go across the street and tell the Rebbe the good news. And the Rebbe said he should make a kiddush, and in 770 make a kiddush to celebrate the good news. So he made a kiddush celebrating the birth of his son, and he asked the Rebbe to be the sandik for the baby, but that wasn't possible. The next Shabbos was the 14th of Kislev, was the Rebbe's anniversary, and Rabbi Pinya Altais, very prominent chassid, asked the Rebbe if the Rebbe would make a farbrengen in honor of his wedding anniversary. And in response, the Rebbe said that there's a bris today, meaning the bris of the Rotenberg family. So the whole 770 crossed the street and went to this bris. The Rebbe's secretary, Rebbe Charka, was honored to be the sandik. And at the end of the bris, he announced that the Rebbe is going to lead a farbrengen at 1:30. And that's actually the reason why the Rebbe started farbrengens. There was some interval between davening and the Rebbe's farbrengen. It started at this Shabbos in 1958. Because of the bris, the farbrengen was delayed, and so to whenever the Rebbe farbreng, there was always at 1:30. There was some interruption between the end of davening to when the Rebbe led the farbrengen. Anyway, so he came over to the Rebbe after the bris and by the farbrengen. And the Rebbe asked what the baby's name was, and he told the Rebbe, "My son's name is Yeshayahu." So the Rebbe said, in his days, Yehuda and the Jewish people will experience, Yeshai means to be saved. The Jewish people will experience salvation, and they will live securely. That's just describing the relationship. But here's a story, the three stories I wanted to share about 3 generations of people trusting in Hashem that things will be good and seeing salvation in the same family. In the summertime of 1958, this Rabbi Rotenberg got a telegram from his brother Mordechai, who lived then in Israel, and the telegram said that their father, David Rotenberg, had a heart attack, and he's in a very critical condition, and he was so frightened, so scared. He ran to 770. He wrote the Rebbe a note, and at the end of his note, he writes, "I don't know what to think." So the Rebbe immediately responded. The Rebbe wrote a line under the words, "I don't know what to think," and the Rebbe wrote the following words: "Ulapella, it's a wonder that you say this. Shayudua v'kagoyin da siva Rebbe saying the siyenu trachku v'zayin v'chakol sursteves." It's known in this kind of situation what our Rebbeim have instructed, which is to think good and it will be good. And I wait to hear good news. So the Rebbe, it's very interesting to me the way the Rebbe responded, because when someone is going through such a horrible situation, it doesn't seem right to direct them right away to trust in Hashem. It's going to be good. But here the Rebbe said it's a wonder to address the situation any other way. It's known that the instruction of our Rebbe's in this kind of situation, think good and it'll be good. And I wait to hear good news. It's a wonder. And the Rebbe wrote a exclamation point. It's a wonder, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. It's a wonder. It's known the instruction of our Rebbeim in this kind of situation, think good and it'll be good. So when Mr. Rotenberg, Avram Rotenberg, got this answer from the Rebbe, you can imagine that he completely, was revived by the Rebbe's words. And he understood that it must be that his father in Israel is recovering. So that Sunday, he called up his parents' house to find out what's going on with his father. And his mother, Mrs. Yente Rotenberg, Alal Shalom, answers the phone and says, with very great joy, that Baruch Hashem, their father, her husband, has experienced a recovery and he's not in danger anymore. So Avram Rotenberg asks, when did he start getting better? So she said on Thursday night. So he's very happy, goes that day right away to 770, across the street, comes to Mincha, and he waits outside the Rebbe's room. The Rebbe sees him as he comes out of his room. The Rebbe asks him, "Do you have good news for me?" And he says, "Yes, my father is no longer in danger." So the Rebbe asked, "When? As of when is he no longer in danger?" So he answers, Avram Rotenberg answers, from Thursday night. Thursday night, he already got better. So Rebbe asked, "When did you start thinking good?" So he said, "When the Rebbe told me, from Thursday night." So the Rebbe said to Mrs. Friedlander's father, she said the story herself. He actually could see the story of him saying this, the story on Gem. He said, the Rebbe said to him, "May such events never occur anymore, but you should always make sure to think good." So he understood, Avram Rotenberg understood, that the reason why his father got better was in the merit of him thinking good. And this is something that accompanied the family I will share now. In the year Tafshin Ayin, 14 years ago, this Avram Rotenberg's brother got sick. His name is Rabbi Mordechai Rotenberg. And he's in the hospital. His eyes are closed. He's very, very sick. And Miri Friedlander's cousin from Beit Shemesh came to visit her father. Her name is Yael. So Yael comes in, and Yael is very in great pain seeing her father in this kind of situation. And she reminds her father the story. And she tells her father, "Think good. If you think it'll help you get better." That's what the Rebbe told when your grandfather, Reb David, or her grandfather, Reb David, his father, when he was sick, the Rebbe said to think good. So please, father, think good. He didn't respond. And Yael left. Yael left very dejected because she expected like that saying these positive words might have some effect on her father, but they didn't. But as she's going home, all of a sudden she realized something. In the story that happened with her grandfather, Reb David Rotenberg, What helped him wasn't that he thought good about his own situation. What helped him was that his son thought good, that his son, her uncle, Rabbi Avram Rotenberg, thought that his father would recover. That's what helped her grandfather, Abdul Rotenberg. And so similarly, she said to herself, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to think good about my father getting better too. And so she spent that day in keeping the instruction of the Rebbe, thinking good, and giving tzedakah. And the next day, when she called the hospital to find out how her father is doing, she called up that father's room. Her father himself answered the phone. He had gotten better, gotten stronger, and he returned to himself and returned to thinking good for many, many long years. About 4 years ago, Tafshin Pei, um, this same woman, Yael Rotenberg, got sick herself. She went through many different surgeries, and the situation wasn't very good. So she asked her son, who was a chassid himself, Shneur Rotenberg, she said, please, she said, for the sake of my health, I'm asking you to think good for me. Please keep the Rebbe's instructions. Think good. This instruction that we gave our family, please keep these instructions. So her son said, of course, Mom. And as he gets up to leave the hospital, his brother calls him. And his brother, he puts his phone on speaker, his brother calls him and says, how's Mom doing? And he answers, Mom is getting better. She feels a lot better. When Yael heard this, and she heard how her son is actually keeping the instruction of the Rebbe to think good and be good, those words encouraged her so much. And she opened up a book of the Rebbe's letters into a random page. And the Rebbe said in that letter that she opened up to, that your presence in the hospital is for a mission. And when you finish the mission that you have in the hospital, you'll be able to leave the hospital. And you should encourage people to do mitzvahs in the hospital. So she encouraged people to give tzedakah, and every Jew that came in, she asked them to think good, to trust in Hashem. And a miracle happened. She got better. With the miracle of them thinking good, which that itself is a miracle, that caused her to get better. I want to share with you one more story, not so much connected to this theme, but it is connected. The story is like this. This story was shared by Rabbi Ashkenazi, the rabbi of Kfar Chabad. Unfortunately, Rahman al-Islam just lost his daughter, the Rebbe's emissary in Dnepropetrovsk, Mrs. Altais, and he shared a story, among other things, an event for the Rebbe's emissaries in Israel. He said the following story, that Tzemach Tzedek. So the Tzemach Tzedek had a chassid who was a businessman, and he would travel every year to go to a yerid. Yerid means a marketplace. He would buy merchandise at the marketplace, and the whole year he would sell the merchandise. So what he would do is he would first go to the Tzemach Tzedek, then he would visit his old teacher. When he was younger, he had a teacher who really helped him, and he would give a donation to his old teacher, and this donation helped his teacher, like his teacher, like live with this a whole year, and that's what he would do. But one year, he had some difficulty leaving his home, and so he was thinking that he's not going to go visit his teacher. Maybe he'll go afterwards, but he has no time to go visit his teacher before the market begins. The market already started, and he didn't really want to waste any more time. So he thought, I'll visit Tzemach Tzedek the Rebbe, and after I visit the Rebbe, I'll go straight to the marketplace. That's what he decided. He comes to Tzemach Tzedek, and Tzemach Tzedek asked him what his plans are. He told the Tzemach Tzedek that he's not planning. Tzemach Tzedek knew about this arrangement. He said, but I'm not planning to go there now because I'm late to go to the marketplace, and I want to go straight to the marketplace. I don't want to miss out on the opportunity that I'll have here that I only have once a year. So Tzemach Tzedek said to him, it's important that you go first visit your school teacher. Okay. So he goes to visit his school teacher. And he's planning not to stay overnight, just to go there for mincha, give him the donation, and to go. He used to stay a couple of days to hang out with his teacher, but this year decided he was going to go there, give him the donation, and then go to the. He already is losing so much time by taking this detour. So that's what he does. He goes there, he davens mincha, and he goes to a school teacher, gives him the donation. But that night there was a very strong rain. He couldn't really travel, so he stayed overnight, and he planned to leave early the next morning. But he got typhus, and he was very sick for 2 months. And he was, and he really was not able to do anything for 2 months. He stayed in his school teacher's house for 2 months, and he couldn't do anything for those 2 months. Finally, Baruch Hashem, he recovers, and he realizes like he has no possible way of earning a living because because now he missed the whole marketplace, and what's he going to do? And so he decided he's going to go back to visit Tzemach Tzedek and tell Tzemach Tzedek what happened. He went to Tzemach Tzedek, and I'm not sure the spiritual caliber of this particular chassid and how he phrased this Tzemach Tzedek, but he felt that because he took the detour, that's how he got sick. So the Tzemach Tzedek said to him, "You're making a mistake." Tzemach Tzedek quoted the Gemara in Sukkah on page 50, the teaching of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said that man's feet are guarantee a person to where he'll be needed. On the surface, the Gemara is saying that you can't escape the angel of death. The angel of death will get you, chas v'shalom, wherever you're meant to leave the world. Your feet are guaranteed to bring you to the place where you're supposed to go when you're meant to leave the world. Tzemach Tzedek said that this Gemara could also be explained in a positive way. That man's feet bring man to a place that he will be prayed for. Not that he will be requested from heaven, but man's feet bring man to a place to where he will be davened for, where he will be prayed for. So Tzemach Tzedek said it's not that you were meant to that you got sick because you went there. It's the opposite. Because you were in this teacher's house, and he prayed for you for those 2 months, that's why you survived. You would have passed away, but because he every day he davened for you, that's why you're alive. That's why you're here. So that's a story, and point is that our prayers are very potent, and our thoughts are very potent, and Hashem guides our every step wherever we are, and we have to, in this month of Iyar, strengthen our emunah, which in turn will strengthen the refuah and the blessing Hashem gives each of us in all of Yisrael, and especially Natanel Ben Ziona, who chas v'shalom is dealing with the Iranian government, chas v'shalom, trying to chas v'shalom do something to him, chas v'shalom this Monday. May we strengthen all in emunah that Natanel Ben Ziona should have good news in a miraculous way. Trachgu v'zayngut, that he should be released completely and nothing should happen to him. We should already celebrate with good news that this is going to happen. L'chaim, l'chaim, a good tevach, nafrei l'chavach. Good tevach, Abba, good tevach, Marcus.
Thank you.
Annie, Baruch, Chayil, Blake, Chayil Sarah, Rav David, Chol David, good tevach. Any questions or comments before we wish each other good tevach?
That was fantastic. Thank you for a great start and end to the day. It was a win.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Baruch Hashem, we were able to say Kiddush Havana tonight.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was really nice. The first time I put it Petzelau. It's good to see you, to check in, and here we are.
Baruch Hashem. Good to see you.